Welcome back to episode
15, I think,
of the JT Music Podcast. Guys, we got some housekeeping to take care of before we get started. Just kidding, we don't.
Just wanted to.
You know how much I love.
I say it so much. You're like, I want to be part of that one day.
We got some housekeeping. I love when podcasts start with housekeeping because I feel like I'm on the inside.
Yep.
I feel like I'm part of it, and you guys are part of this.
I'll manifest some housekeeping, I guess.
Get some housekeeping. Let's do it. Bring the people in. Get
we're
close.
gonna try and keep hitting every week, but with the holidays we might miss a week or two coming up, but we're going to try and hit everything we can. Mm-hmm. But it's a bummer because we were 5 weeks ahead, and we meant to keep that kind of a rolling buffer, but we just had like contractors and people come in to work on the studio, but they were all there like 5 to 10 days longer than the 1 to 2 days they said they'd be there. And yes, you heard that right. There's all supposed to be 1 to 2 day jobs, and they were always here way longer than they should have been, and they weren't complaining about any complications. I don't want to make any insinuations, but I don't know if they're using their time super efficient. Anyways, there was a lot of stuff that like handicapped us from having to. I don't know, is that okay to say now? It withheld us from doing a lot of stuff, such as filming a podcast, or there's a lot less flexibility with recording music and stuff like that.
Because there were
all that is to say
stuff.
is we were ahead just for times like the holidays and stuff like this, but it got eaten into by. I don't know.
There was a lot of...
It's like some of the contractors from different things were like ratting each other out. Like, oh yeah, they didn't need to be here that long.
Talking shit about each other.
Yeah, it was very weird. It was very weird.
But the studio is almost done. We're still doing more work. But hey, we can save that housekeeping for another time. But hey, that was good housekeeping.
Yeah.
Get people up to speed. But here we are with some beautiful lighting.
Well, you lit this one. I lit last one. Maybe we'll... I don't know. I went with the kind of red and the orange on the side last week, and you went with the blue and the pink, which is pretty cool.
I thought blue and pink would contrast well, which they do pretty well.
Yeah,
you can't see the blue as much.
It's pretty FNAF-y.
It does look FNAF-y, but...
No, the blue's resonating even if you don't see it.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's for only people watching. But yeah, we have a bunch of different topics. I figured to start off, because we never addressed it.
We've got a contentious one.
We'll jump into that after. I figured we'll start with Helle Neighbor.
To
review very quickly.
Yeah.
Just because we covered Bendy, and I'm sure people might be a little curious on what we thought of, or at least what I thought of Helle Neighbor. Mm-hmm. And kind of cool. We got to play it early. We signed some paperwork, so we kind of knew about it for a bit. It's pretty cool. Like that normally actually doesn't happen. Game developers, publishers treat us like pariahs for some reason. I don't know. Probably because they know we're going to cover their song or cover their game usually. But Tiny Build, obviously have a previous relationship with them, and it paid off in regards to this project. Didn't influence anything outside of just having the resources early. And so all that out of the way, and no exchange of money, by the way. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it better than Bendy. They're not the same game, but if you had to compare the two indie games that we just played and made a song for, I liked Helle Neighbor better. It's more janky. It's pretty rough around the edges.
But it seemed to know what it was more.
Yeah.
Bendy's identity in terms of gameplay didn't seem to be there. I didn't watch you play as much of Helle Neighbor.
Yeah.
But from what you said, I'll let you speak. It seemed like it knew what it was more.
Yeah, it was essentially, the game is an escape room game. It's a way less of kind of meandering through the house and sneaking and stealth. And there's still that at play, but you're doing that, but you're also like unlocking different rooms, and then you get this clue, and you can figure out how that, like, it's an escape room. If you've ever done an escape room, that's Helle Neighbor. And so if you like escape rooms, you're gonna like that game. Mm-hmm. And despite its jankiness, it was still clear on what it wanted me to do. It was clear on what it was, and so I admire that, and I enjoyed that. That allowed me to enjoy it better because it was good at the things it set out to do. Technically, obviously, some issues and bugs and whatnot, but it's still playable and fine. And I give them a pass because I'm pretty sure they're like a split Ukrainian-Russian team or something. I know that the war had something to do with some issue, like had some issues with like the production timeline, so kind of forgivable, I guess. That's all I really wanted to say. I just did want to share that because I was surprised by it, and it was a good example of kind of the other side of something that was sure of itself.
Like buckling down on the things are working in your game.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Bendy definitely missed that a little bit.
But it is interesting, the trailers for Helle Neighbor are a different game. which is probably a lot of it of the war and whatever impact that may have had in production. They had to simplify it or strip a lot of features to make something possible when there's people relocating, all the stuff they did.
But did it still feel complete? Like when you beat it, did it feel like, oh, that was a full, complete game? How was your feeling?
It felt complete in the sense of like, I went through all the trailer footage after I beat it, and I felt like not cheated, but it's like, oh, that's cool stuff. I would have been cool if that was in the game. Yeah. The game felt simpler after that, but as like someone who just played it, I enjoyed it, I guess, if that makes sense. So I had like a weird hindsight thing, but it didn't, like before I saw those trailers, I liked the game and I thought it was good.
You know what? This is kind of off topic, but not really relating to that. I go back to this a lot, and I know a lot of big BioShock fans do. It does relate. BioShock, Bendy, new games, trailers. The trailers for BioShock Infinite initially. I still really love BioShock Infinite. It's probably my least favorite out of the three, but I still love it. That says a lot. But the trailers for BioShock Infinite and the game we didn't get, I know there's a big YouTube video that's the BioShock Infinite we never got. And like going back and looking at those old trailers, I still like to do that because I like to imagine what they originally had planned for it. And obviously, game development is a huge process. Things change. You got to throw things out. You got to scrap things. Again, I still am happy with BioShock Infinite, but I love going back and looking at what could have been. And I definitely felt like there was probably some of that with Helle Neighbor too, because some of the trailers were really cool. But
whereas I think Tiny Build has an excuse of a war.
Yeah,
I don't know what the excuse was for. I mean, they don't have to justify it at not what are they called? Take Two, and then that's the publisher who made BioShock.
2K or wait,
2K
and Irrational Games.
Irrational Games, sorry. Yeah, like Irrational Games doesn't need to justify why they went back on some things. But
yeah, for sure. For me, I don't look at it so much like, oh, I wanted this version of BioShock. It's just a different version. So that's why I go back to those trailers.
For me, much. I see something more deep and more indicative and more that feels more in tone with the first two games, or rather the first game coming from them, like just truly like pushing the boundary. Like, because BioShock is a pretty simple game as far as today's standard, but like it felt like it was a cutting edge game, at the time. And BioShock Infinite didn't feel cutting edge. Like the Elizabeth AI, you saw right through it. Like she was good at, they scripted her well, and like in terms of her movements and like her throwing you coins and ammo, like that's not that interesting or that deep. And then her following you, but also like being in front of you as she's like, is I don't know. Like the Elizabeth AI was interesting, but maybe it did push it at a time. That's more of a jaded perspective now, but I didn't feel like the whole, like the atmospheric side of it didn't push it, that like the AI companion isn't what I don't think is an important facet of what could make a BioShock game good, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe focus was put too much on her instead of the world and all the things that made the first game great. Because if you see that the way BioShock could have been, the world felt living and breathing the way it did in the first game.
Yeah.
But the game doesn't feel living and breathing in Infinite. And I played that game, like I played it initially, and then I recorded it for like having a cache of footage for videos. Lost that. Replayed it again like another year later. So like I have a lot of time on that game pretty recently too. And obviously it's, the benefit of hindsight or the fact that it's aged out maybe, but like I feel like I look back at that time and there's a lot of good stuff coming out then. And I think they've all aged better than that. And for me, BioShock Infinite's a 6 out of 10 game at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I remember so much of the marketing and promotion was about Elizabeth and the AI, and I was also, there were a couple moments where I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I remember I felt the same way. In fact, I didn't actively think about it because it didn't come to the forefront of my brain that this AI is so good. It just I just saw through it. Yeah,
book a catch.
But I still, thinking about it in terms of philosophy of game design, in BioShock, the first game, the world really was the centerpiece. That was the main character. So I respect the fact that I'm sure Ken Levine and the development team were like, cool, we've made a world that lives and breathes. Let's focus on making a person that lives and breathes. So I respect the philosophy behind that in terms of trying to change it up. Ultimately, I do think it was kind of lackluster, like you were saying, but I like the fact that they tried to focus on something new.
Yeah.
And also I like that they didn't try to do a similar kind of twist. Even though there were twists, it wasn't the same kind of twist. God, BioShock 1 is just such a masterpiece because it's like a twist on gaming itself. It's like, oh, you think you have free will because this is a game. Nah, you don't. This is my game. I made it for you to play. Like, that's hard to top. All of BioShock is so hard to top. So I appreciate they tried different things with Infinite, but, you know, it's
I mean, spinning off of that, I don't know what came of it, but there was a Halo 2 demo, like a single player demo map of like this really cool fight and like some cool interactions with like Marines and all, just a cool level of Halo 2 that didn't actually see the game. And they re-released it or re-releasing it somewhere. I don't remember, but it was an article and they announced it 343 Industries.
It's just one level?
Yeah, but it's like a demo level like everyone always wanted to play. And I specifically like remember binge watching that video because it's like if I can't play it, then I'll just watch it. I mean, I don't know. I loved Halo. I played that game to death. Both Halo 1, 2, and 3. And I don't know. That's just interesting. Like I only bring that up because it's like a trailer-ish situation that they do want to make available for you to play now. Like a promise that was kind of not delivered is now going to be delivered in a sense, which is cool.
That is really cool.
You know, however many years later, 15 years later.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That'll be very cool.
But
hey, speaking of AI,
oh yeah,
we've got some contentious shit to talk about.
Yep. Hey everyone, Pat Fan just interjecting after the fact. So this is me speaking, not in the podcast for audio listeners. For video listeners, is obvious, but just wanted to touch on something that we did miss in terms of this discussion is with AI art is the monetization of it. There's two aspects: the way it's been monetized on certain platforms, you pay, and then you can use it, you know, and it generates art. You know, artists aren't seeing anything from that. It's pulling from so many things. It's a little bit less contentious, but it is a slippery slope and not okay. And I think it did lead to something that's a lot more contentious in recent news and something we missed, which is people like creating script or AI kind of engines that are inspired by specific artists, and then they are selling that, you know, and that's very, very not okay. So I did want to address that, and I think our discussion still works. I think it's about AI art existing and, you know, the everyday person using it in a non-malicious manner. So yeah, I wanted to mention that.
AI art. All the artists are out of work.
You can't avoid it right now. Everyone's doing their portraits. Everyone's got to share their opinion on it. It's interesting.
Artists, graphic designers, I feel for you.
It's their second week in a row talking about artist drama, by the way.
I know, right? But the scary thing is, hey, they're coming for us next. Music, AI music is already a thing. What do we do when AI music is doing what we do and better?
Yeah.
Which I think obviously AI art is still, it's still pretty early on. It's still missing that human aspect. There's still a slight amount of jank to it, but it's getting good and exponentially fast.
Yeah.
Like once it's crazy to me, the concept of AI being able like to take off on its own. Like I know Elon Musk and a lot of people who are in AI technology have talked about how like once AI reaches a certain point, it can teach itself, and then you don't have to, like, it can update itself, and you know, once it reaches that point, then then the robots take over. Skynet. But anyways, right now the AI art, what's it doing, dude? Is it putting artists out of business?
Yeah, so there's a lot of artists, understandably so, like kind of sharing opinions and like bashing people who are using it, or like kind of sharing these like it's unethical, like not even just like it's putting artists out of work, but it's like because AI art sources all the art on the internet to then create stuff. And so it's like, oh, no one's getting the royalties of that. I bet the artists they aren't seeing anything with that. Like it's not seeing the light of day. This one guy made a children's art book or children's storybook with AI art especially, and they got just roasted by artists, kind of just, I don't know, call them heartless, like just questioning why he would do it, all these different things. And it's interesting because I will always, and this is me, so I know I don't speak for everyone, but I always will like hire an artist for something important. But I will use AI art for things that I wouldn't pay an artist in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like concept art for my D&D campaign, stupid portraits of me. You know, I guess like commissioning artist portraits of yourself isn't like outside the realm of possibility. Like people do it all the time. But you know, do I want to spend $600 for a picture of myself? You know, I'm vain enough to see what I look like as a knight through AI art, but I'm not going to pay $600 to an artist make something of me looking like a knight. You know, like I want to play with it and see how I look like, and then you know maybe repost it. But the point is, I feel like a lot. And that guy who made the children's art book, I think, was more of a just exploration of this technology, and it's a lot of early adopter types who are having fun playing with the technology. I don't. Like there's implications of it, but I don't think it's being used maliciously now or in any sense that would put artists out of work. Like,
yeah,
anyone who would pay an artist to do something is still going to do that right now. I could speculatively speak for everyone when I say that. Like, you're still going to pay a real artist when you need something at this stage.
I think because I think there's two sides to it. I think there is a slight morality side that I agree with you on, that I would actually prefer to pay a human artist for like an album art or something like that it especially is going to be commercialized or used publicly. I would fool around with AI art just to, you know, like you said, make goofy images of myself, but like I would actually pay an artist. And there's two sides to it. Like I was saying, there's the morality side, like I want to support artists, and there's the jank side. There is a bit of jank to AI art still. You'll still get something, a certain, I'm such a cock for saying this, je ne sais quoi with an actual artist that you won't with an AI.
Artifacts.
Artifacts. Yeah, the imperfections of art are truly what make art. Like the more I create art for a living, the more I realize those imperfections and things that are unexpected are what make art so beautiful. Also, I think, and I should be doing this now that AI music is coming out, which I've heard some of it, and I'm blown away at how like cohesive it can sound sometimes.
Like with lyrics, or is it just like EDM
just like
beats?
Mostly electronic
I feel
stuff
like
that I've heard.
I wonder how much, because I think instrumental beat-wise, even like orchestral, like any sound of non-human voice in lyric writing, I think that's the biggest threat on music making.
Yeah.
But I think like, I don't know, guitar, like different types of solos and improvised situations of like human creativeness on a spot. I think lyric writing and then performance of the lyrics, I don't think those could be touched. Yeah. And when they do, then what's the point? Mm-hmm. And they will get there, I'm sure, eventually. But if
by that point, Skynet's already happened and we're taking over. So, but what I was going to say is I think it's really important for artists. That's why I said I should be listening to AI music and stuff. Is for if you're a graphic designer, an artist, like you should be playing with this AI art to figure out what it can do. Also, if you're an artist of any sort, you probably have a talent beyond the average person at whatever it is you do, whatever kind of art you do.
Big part.
So you should use that to your advantage and be playing with this art to like figure out what it can do, what you can do with it, and better yet, what I think is most importantly, what it can't do that you can. I think right now is a really important time.
Know your
for
enemy.
People to, know your enemy. Know what it can't do. See, like that certain je ne sais quoi. I hate when people say that, but sometimes you've got to use it.
I think
you've got to figure out what it can't do. I don't know. I think it's important for creators to be doing that because, like, it sucks to see that people might commission AI art instead of a real artist, and that is a threat to your job security. But it's here, and it's here to stay.
I think something that isn't considered too is it's very, very handholdy way of doing it, but it is allowing a lot of people to manifest their imagination in a way they can't. They don't have that ability. Yeah. And yes, it's like essentially not something they made, but that connection is there. They had an idea and then it can now be made, and it is what they wanted. Mm-hmm. I think that's more so like the artists realize they have this talent that no one else has, but now it's being infringed on by this AI or that feeling. But I think there's also a flip side, and it's not the strongest argument I know, but it's just like, but now other people can kind of feel that sense of creation, or they can do things with creation themselves. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, those people can't do it themselves, and a lot of them probably wouldn't pay an artist anyways.
Yeah.
It just allows them to do things now that they couldn't before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not like at this stage in 2022 to 2023, very shortly. I don't think artists have lost any work because of AI art. I'm sure someone has, but I mean, like, I don't think it's a thing right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't, and I think there's a fear of it happening. So it's hard to say. The world changes so fast, and it's like, what's the next thing, past the internet?
Yeah.
Because I think the internet is the biggest thing in our lifetime that we saw come in and just change everything. Smartphones as well. I mean, kind of electric cars, we're very slowly seeing that change. The fusion energy, whatever.
Yeah.
That just happened.
That
and then I think
shit
AI
is
art
wild.
is a new one. So
The fusion stuff got me very hype because the more I did research on it, it's been like almost 100 years of this research going into fusion technology. And basically, from what I've gathered, the biggest thing is that this is the first time that they have netted more energy than they put into it. I think that's the wildest thing. So that literally shows that, like, as long as there's no mass human extinction event, we are going to have, as long as we keep improving on this, we are going to have renewable energy. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. But anyways, I did also want to touch on about the AI art. I don't want to sound like, despite the stuff I've said about art being derivative, I don't think it's a good argument to get royalties from AI art if it extrapolated or pulled something from you. Like, it's a tough argument to make, but I do want to say I am on the artist side. Trust me, I'm scared. Like I said, I'm scared of AI music taking over me. Like, I'm on the artist side. I am an artist, but so I don't want to misinterpret that. But
I think
my main argument is that it's here to stay and we have to adapt to it. That is kind of the argument I'm making. It's like, because it's not illegal, it's a thing that exists, and it's probably not going away unless, I don't know. It's not going away.
Go away because of the AI.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously very emotional for people. I get it. But I think like learn how to live with it is the best thing, and then I think my angle is I don't think it's that big of a concern for you right now. I don't think you'll see changes to your daily life.
Yep.
Again, like. The reason, again, people can now create things that they could never have before. Like, they're doing it because they have this new ability. It's like almost, I don't know, like, I have, like, most of my friends can make music, and I don't have that ability, and it feels weird, and it's like there's a hole, and I just don't have the ability. It's, it's as simple as that. But, like, if I had a shortcut to maybe, like, I don't know, like, it's like I more so say it's like a superhuman ability, or it's like a superpower.
Yeah,
that's the word.
Is.
It's like a superpower that people can now just have. Oh, I can be an artist.
Yeah.
In a sense of expressing myself. And again, they didn't make it. It's very, very dumbed down. And I have some creative talents where I can create things, and I've seen things in front of me, and I know that process. I'm not all technical. I can draw, I can edit, film, storytell. I like telling stories and writing stories. So it's like, I do know that process. So I do know what it takes to make something and have that product be yours in the process, and looking at it and being like, I did that, also. So I also want to put that out there. I'm not like trying to jump to shortcuts. Like, if I can just make music.
I agree with you that there is kind of a nice touching side to the AI art that people who otherwise, like you were saying, like you don't have the musical bug. You don't have the musical creative thing. But if you had a way to, like, you had an idea for a song, a type of rhythm or a type, and you got to use AI art to kind of manifest that is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And again, I understand that artists feel threatened by that. I feel a little threatened by that. It's scary to think about, but I also reel myself back in by saying, wait a minute, if I am, like, good at making music, but other people can use AI art to make music that is just as good, if not better than mine, how can I use my natural creative ability with this new technology? Because there must be a way to kind of, which is why I made the argument that artists should be playing with this technology. Because if you have some creative bugs, I keep calling it a bug, the creative gene, it's going to carry over into whatever you're using. It's going to carry over, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm making points.
Yeah, if Joe Schmo can make something cool with AI art for his project, And then I don't know. Again, as an art, like as a particularly an illustrator, I mean, I think it's unfathomable just not to do it yourself. But I'm sure there's something there.
It's like here's a comparison I'm making in my head. It's like going from like using GarageBand to Logic Pro. Like, if you're good at making beats, you're gonna make a better beat on GarageBand than somebody who's using Logic Pro with all of Native Instruments software and all Waves plugins, who doesn't know how to make beats. You're going to make a better one on GarageBand because you know how to do it. Like, applying those skills, it doesn't, I guess the AIR isn't, there's a je ne sais quoi that it can't take away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be used as a hobby thing ultimately. I think,
like
as I touched on with the music thing for me, like I think it's, right now, it's early adopters, and I think it'll find its place for people who can now create. Like, because there is, like, it's not that I don't have a bug, because I think a bug is like a fixation.
Yeah.
But like I can't make music. I can think of things in my head like, oh, that's kind of like, I don't know. I'm sure I could maybe write a little bit. I've helped write songs with JT, but like just like the rhythm, I'm so stiff, like I can't do that. Like I'm physically incapable. There's people who can't draw. There's people who can't visualize pacing through video editing. There's people who just don't know how to tell a good story. So, and like, sure, they could be coached up potentially, but ultimately you have it or you don't. And so I think it's an interesting thing, and not an equalizer in a sense, but it just gives someone that avenue to try and express themselves in a whole medium that they never knew they could do. Even if it is like 5% their brain and 95% the AI's brain, and work and effort. But it's interesting, and I think there's a perspective that isn't looked at, because there's a very emotional response from artists.
Yeah.
And I think,
which I get.
Yeah, and it's totally fair. Like I'm not blaming anyone for that.
Yeah.
I guess truly playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, no, we're definitely doing a little devil's advocate. But again, I'm on your side, artists. If I can make AI art disappear, and also like I do think, even though it's not like illegal or anything, to like, for example, make an AI art, make a children's book, and then sell it. Even though that's not really illegal, I do think that the guy who did that is kind of a tool, and kind of like, I get the reaction. It's like, come on, like, yeah, you could have paid somebody, but again, I see both sides. But we can't be nuanced on this podcast, because people don't like nuance.
Nuance
people
doesn't
want
exist.
Extreme opinions, and they want to get mad at me. So I'm gonna say, death to the artists. I am a machine. JT music is now run by robots. Shutting down. Okay, I'm gonna stop that. But yeah, we love you guys. The machines haven't taken over yet.
Yeah, I mean,
but they will.
I think in 2023, we are going to make an effort to get a lot of art made before JT stuff. Just like we're gonna, like I mentioned, I think, was it? Yeah, I think. Sorry, we do a Patreon podcast too, so it's hard to remember where what was said. But do album art. Try reaching out to a different artist just so we get a different look. Try someone new just for that project. Yeah. And then I think just doing kind of semi-regular, limited posters and cool art. Why not? Those things sell really well, in the sense that it sells well enough where it's like we can just keep doing it because people love it. And I think it's awesome just to support the artists, expose people to new artists, and then also a cool product, a cool poster print, a cool whatever kind of thing that you could get from that cool art from just a bunch of different types of artists. So that's something we're focusing on in 2023. And if there was any doubt that I was like pro AI, anti-artist, non-sympathetic, I mean, that's something I want to do in 2023. So hopefully that tells you where I'm really at.
Yeah, no, for sure. Me too. I like. Plus, there is a knowing that a piece of art was made by a human as opposed to an AI gives it inherently so much more value to me. And that's I know that might not be for everybody, but it gives it so much more. Oh, yeah. It's just like when I'm making a beat. If a part of my melody or instrumental came from like a really cool sample that I got off Splice or something, and like most of the foundation of the vibe is from this sample. Sure, I can still be proud of the instrumental because I still built around it and made it my own, but when I came up with a melody completely from scratch and built the entire thing from the ground up, I have an inherent more value in it, and that's the artist part of my brain. So totally agree.
I think that almost even exists because it's so new. Like usually when something's new, the kind of vibe, like the kind of tribal vibe of humans usually takes a minute to manifest, but I think almost already universally, as new as it is and as understood it is, I think everyone would prefer the touch of a real artist.
Of course.
If they could. If money, connections, the know-how to reach out and find artists, everyone would prefer a real human.
Yeah.
So
you're not...
I think that's just already there for something so new, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously probably why there's so much stiff resistance from the artists themselves, but
yeah.
or is a manifestation of that. But
it's interesting stuff, but it's here to stay, so we just gotta adapt.
Yep. Future's wild.
It is. It is wild. What else do we have to talk
So
about?
Henry Cavill.
This is even more contentious, guys. God, we've got some hot takes today. Henry Cavill is no longer Superman. What are we gonna do? Are you mad? Are you raging?
I think DC needed a clean slate. So I don't know the details of if he's gone and they're keeping Gal Gadot or something like that. I don't know. I think if they are clean slating, I think they need a clean slate, and I think they do need to, unfortunately.
Yeah, when you think about it like that, because even though I think Henry Cavill is my favorite Superman, he sticks with the image of the Zack Snyder, and I didn't hate Man of Steel. I'm not I actually enjoyed Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman. I thought it was a bit boring, but I didn't hate it a lot of people did. But it also is missing a certain X factor that especially Phase 1 Marvel movies just had. This palpable charm and love. There was, not that DC has to do that, because DC has always kind of been the darker one, but they have to figure out their X factor. They haven't. So I get that they've got to clear out Henry Cavill, or they're still going to associate. Yeah, it's
ruthless and heartless in a sense. If it's if they're picking who they're keeping, but if they're doing everyone, then I don't. I think it's fine.
Yeah,
I think it's a changing of the guard. This is to be expected, and it doesn't mean it can't be bittersweet. And I know that's tough for him because he seems to be a true nerd, and he was Superman. That meant a lot to him.
The most arguably the most handsome man to ever exist. I know that's a big statement to make, but you could argue, one could argue that Henry Cavill is the most handsome man to ever exist. And he's definitely came from Krypton.
I feel like he's textbook handsome without being plain. In a sense, when the AI or computers, even before AR was a thing, would make the most attractive human.
Yeah, and it's kind of missing something.
They look kind of plain, even though they're attractive. Yeah. But he's got a little extra, I guess.
He's got something.
Yeah, what I just said.
Dude, also, I think it was in Man of Steel when he's trying to lift something. I think it's towards the end, and you see in his face Christopher Reeves pops up. Have you seen that in Man of Steel? It's so cool. Dude, it's so cool. There's a moment where, I'm not making this up. I think it was Man of Steel. Maybe it was the one with Brandon Routh or whatever. I think it was Henry Cavill. He's it's Henry Cavill. He's pressing or flying, and he's looking up. You can look it up on YouTube, and you see Christopher Reeve's face noticeably flashes across. It's easy. The way they did it is artful.
Was it an homage? Did he just die or something?
I think he must have, because I know he died in the 2008 or something. He died before Man of Steel came out, I think. But it was definitely an homage to Christopher Reeve, who was also, if Henry Cavill's right here's the perfect Superman, Christopher Reeve is right there. The other guy, Brandon Routh.
So does that mean he's the second most handsome man to ever live?
No, but he's more. What puts him so close to Henry Cavill is he's more unique looking. He looks a little more unique, even though he is chiseled and handsome as fuck. Also, dude,
is he the one that fell off a horse or in a horse race or something?
He did.
Yeah.
Hot take. Christopher Reeves or Reeve. I can't remember if there's an S or not. I think it's Reeve. Christopher Reeve had such a great frame, but you could tell he probably wasn't working out super hard for that movie like Henry Cavill was. I think if Christopher Reeve had been hitting the weights and probably done a little bit of juice, because Henry Cavill probably done a little juice, it's okay, because guess what? A lot of Hollywood actors do that, and that's just a normal thing, and they get it prescribed, and they're not doing it dangerously.
It's Reeve.
But if Christopher Reeve had done a little bit of the juice and been hitting the weights really hard, not like throwing around 20-pound dumbbells, I'm talking like compound lifts, like getting a trainer, like hitting the weights, I think he would have been still not quite as handsome as Henry Cavill, but peak Superman. Because you look at his frame and his physique. I'm a firm believer in this. Anybody who's into weightlifting or bodybuilding, if Christopher Reeve had done the same exact workout regimen as Henry Cavill, would have blown him out of the water. You can tell from his frame, he's just a big beefy boy. Like, he doesn't look like he was hitting the weights that hard. Which is a testament to how great his physique is.
Just thinking, just take this segment as like a minute TikTok segment of you talking about Christopher Reeve, how he should have juiced up.
Dude,
talking about his figure.
Yes, because
just put that on TikTok.
He had an excellent figure. Like, yeah, he did. Anyways, what were we talking about?
I think
Superman.
Generally the direction of the DCEU, with like Peter Brandolph or something, I don't know, but the big name obviously is James Gunn.
James Gunn.
He's leading he's leading it, which is really interesting. And I just open up the floor there. Do you have faith in him? What do you think? What's the tone? Do you think it's going to be the kind of Guardians, Suicide Squad bullshit?
Did he do Brightburn? Didn't he do Brightburn?
I think it was one of those movies where he like kind of was probably like 30% involved.
Oh,
but they just use his name on marketing to push the movie.
Because Brightburn, for those of you who don't know, is the evil Superman movie.
There's a lot of B, like C-tier movies that do that.
Yeah, it wasn't anything special. It was, if you watch the trailer, you basically know the movie. It's just a dark origin story for a Superman character. But I really enjoyed it. But whether or not that was James Gunn, I don't know.
Screenplay was by Brian and Mark Gunn.
Okay.
So it sounds like he's a producer. He was just probably helping out his bros.
Superhero movies stick to their guns. I'll see myself out. That I think DC, like I said at the beginning, DC needs to find its tone. It can't try to be Marvel. Like, everybody knows what happens when it tried to be Marvel in Batman vs Superman.
Oh yeah.
When it just
that was building
Justice
a universe.
League. Was it Justice League?
Oh yeah, with
just because they had
Jason Momoa sitting on the Truth Wand or whatever, the Truth Whip or whatever, and
then Batman saying funny lines like, "Oh, I think I'm bleeding." It was just like, "Whoa, you guys don't know what you're doing." So I get why they need the clean slate, but it is like Henry Cavill just is.
Well, now it's like, is that Flash movie going to see the light? They canceled that Batman girl or Batgirl movie too.
Oh, right, because Ezra Miller has kind of gone off the deep end.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's just, they're in a weird place, like where they're holding properties and like projects that are done, and now they've transitioned. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of tone. I don't know what tone they're going to find because James Gunn, he's kind of he kind of brought the Marvel-ish thing to Suicide Squad, and that worked for Suicide Squad. But
for Suicide
But I don't know how much. Like, is that going to be the tone? Is DC going to lean into like teenagers and up, like only PG-13, but like hard PG-13s, But from what I've heard, and I'm not a comic book guy. Like, I liked the main ones when I was a kid, like Batman and Spider-Man and like whatever. But I wasn't like in, But from what I've heard of people who are, like, DC is generally the better actually when it comes to the comic books and all that, and has just a better universe, or they like it better. So, I mean, that more speaks to just how well Marvel's been managed. But like the fact that maybe there's better stuff, or just stuff just as good and it's been not told and set up well. Like, the potential is really cool.
Yeah.
But that does bring up a fatigue thing, which we don't have to transition to now, but it is something like if we get a bunch of dope DC stuff and I'm already fatiguing on Marvel, what happens if we have two dope things of something
Yeah.
like, is that just going to double it? Is it going to make it actually better and more fresh? Like the competition maybe could make things better. And I think actually that's a good point.
Like Burger King and McDonald's parking next to each other. They both do better because there's competition.
Yeah.
Same with the Backstreet Boys. That's why they created NSYNC, to make Backstreet Boys have competitors, and they both profited from it. So I see that.
That's why
I
that's
think
why
the
Dan Bull created us.
Exactly. That's why we're Dan Bull's clones. But I think the fatigue, they definitely need to be careful of, because I've already, even though I have been a staunch defender of the Marvel movies, I really don't like when people shit on the Marvel movies. Oh, they're all the same. They're all cookie
Or
cutter.
I'm kind of over it. I always got annoyed by that take. I was like, you're lame.
Me too, because they're well done. You go to see a Marvel movie and you have fun. It doesn't matter if it's a similar structure, the hero's journey, story arc. They're fun. They're still well done, and that still takes so much talent to keep especially the whole universe of the MCU, they've kept cohesive, which over how many movies and shows they've done, the fact that they've kept it feeling like it's all part of the same cohesive universe, even though it's multi-universal now, it still feels like, you know what I mean, the same universe canonically, is incredible. That being said, I finally have hit my Marvel fatigue.
I think it's
I
the
haven't
TV
been watching the
pushed
shows.
it over the edge.
The shows, I did not like the new Black Panther. I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't really enjoy it. And after I walked out, I was like, I wonder if that's because the movie was bad, or just because I didn't think the movie was bad. I think it's because I said to John, I think I've hit my Marvel wall.
Yeah, I think it's objectively at least not bad.
Yeah,
and
it's not
I say that
bad.
as someone who liked it, but I liked it, but I didn't know how I felt about it, and I was like, I don't think it's the content of the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I don't know. I think I'm kind of getting tired.
So,
and for me, I think it's the TV shows that really pushed me over the edge, and they're all good. I've liked them all, but it's just like, it was different when you checked in for 2.5 hours, like once every 3 months.
Yeah.
But now, like, there's like a new 10-hour, 12-hour show. It feels like every other month.
Yeah.
You know? And it's great for, like, there's a lot of people who are consuming it all. Like, it's clearly
I was gonna say that if you're one of the people consuming it all, you go for it. Like, I'm not shitty. I'm just saying we feel fatigue, which probably means there's a handful of other people feeling
and it hits me with Star Wars too. Like,
me too.
But I think Star Wars,
I still haven't watched Andor.
Yeah, and I need to. It's actually it's pretty
You
bad
haven't
that
watched it?
I've seen the first 2 episodes.
Oh damn.
You're
not a real Star Wars fan.
Yeah, for me, despite it being good, and the Star Wars shows all being pretty good already, for me it's Star Wars in movies, and it's kind of a bummer that they're not being made into movies right now.
Yeah,
because that's Star Wars. I think like Marvel actually could excel as a TV show because it's serialized content, like kind of comic books, you know, like that. A lot of stuff, intertwining storylines, all makes sense in that. Star Wars, as cool as it is that they're doing, and like, oh my God, there's Luke and a Boba Fett, or Luke and a Boba Fett show. But then there's, I don't know, like all that cross stuff is kind of cool in the moment, but I think it hurts the identity of something like Star Wars. Whereas a comic book property, it makes sense, it fits. With that said, it still fatigues me. But yeah, I don't know. I think
here's what they do: they make all the DC movies rated R.
I think that might. I mean.
That's just my edgelord take, but I wonder how that would work, because so many like Batman fans are getting older. Like, they made Joker rated R.
I mean,
not saying they all have to be just like Joker, but like, I think when we talk about DC having a darker tone than Marvel, I know fucked up shit happens in Marvel comics. Like, Thanos will rip Captain America in half and suck his intestines out. Not that, but I know brutal, violent stuff has happened in Marvel, but I think DC, and I could be completely wrong on this, let me know in the comments if I am, but I think DC is more psychologically dark, mainly with like characters like the Joker and stuff. I think DC tends to be more psychologically dark because both comics have like their share of violence. So I wonder if they lean into that more with DC. I feel like if you're making a comic book movie, it inherently has to have some degree of whimsicalness, which is why the Marvel, especially early Phase 1 and Phase 2 Marvel, was so good. Because it balanced that degree of epicness with self-awareness, and how How are they going to do that?
I'm fascinated by it. Like, they're supposed to announce kind of the slate of the first few projects coming up in the new year, but they did touch on. I think James Gunn said that the Superman movie is not going to be an origin movie. It's not going to have Henry Cavill, and he's going to be younger. It's going to be young Superman.
Ooh, a fresh Superman. I like, dude, I want to see like a Smallville type, like he's a teenager or something, or just starting to get off the ground. I'll see myself out.
One thing I did want to, with Marvel fatigue, and this is a bigger thing, but Bob Iger is back as a CEO of Disney, and Bob Chapek, who was the backtrack. Iger has been the Disney CEO for a long time. He succeeded Eisner, and then it was Iger, and he just recently stepped down. And then this guy Chapek came in, and he's kind of been the CEO over the COVID years. But now Iger's back. The board ousted him, and so with that, one of the things
the board ousted Iger.
No, Chapek.
Oh, Chapek and brought back. Okay.
Anyways, with all that, he's like, and the reason Chapek got kind of out of favor, and one thing that Iger is going to do is reel back on output of quantity.
Dude,
so they're going back to quality over quantity, and so that I feel like is coming at the right time personally for me, as where the TV shows I don't get to right away, and the movie just very recently I've walked away fatigued. I liked it. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, dude.
You know, and
because they know the cookie. I hate to use the word cookie cutter, but they know kind of doing that, a little bit of cookie cutter action. You can crank out stuff, and it's all going to do well. That makes me very excited to hear that Bobby Iger is getting back in there.
I mean, I liked him. Like, I don't know. I've watched a lot of Disney behind the scenes stuff, so I have like my favorite Disney CEOs, and I like
Imagineering is awesome.
Yeah,
dude. I think we've talked about that on this podcast before. If you haven't seen Imagineering on Disney Plus, it's so cool.
Watch it. There's a bunch of cool behind the scenes stuff now on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Which I guess would be a little bit less of now that they're cool. But like that's a good thing, because I think they're seeing how well Apple is doing. Apple is like their catalog isn't deep, but they keep making like everything is almost like a home run, or at least very solid. And the fact that I think they won Best Picture, or they like won a lot of awards at the Oscars with their film, you know. And it wasn't a film they even made. They just are curating really good content and then publishing it. You know, they're finding out film festivals and then only putting it on Apple. So I think Apple comes in again just to show how it's done, or at least create because the trend exists. But they're like, no, this is the way to do the trend. It's really fascinating stuff. It's like we're in the minutia and the nuance of these streaming platforms of media and stuff. So it's cool to see the waves change ever so slightly, and the impact they have, and then also be a consumer in it as well. It's really fun. It's cool.
At the end of the day, there is just a plethora of good television and movies in this day and age. It is super overwhelming.
Yep.
It's
so overwhelming that it's like, I'm just going to go watch Avatar or The Office again.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
I think that's oh my God, what is our millennial? I forgot. I think that's a millennial thing too. Millennials, we cling to nostalgia so much, but it is I do that too sometimes. I'll be like, oh, what do I want to watch? Like I've also been wanting to watch Avatar at the request of John and his girlfriend. That like it's amazing, it's a masterpiece. But I'm always like, I'm just gonna go back to something else that I already know, because there's too much stuff. Let's just put on Gilmore Girls again.
Yep. But I think I don't know if I said this. I do a movie podcast with a friend, so that's starting to mesh together. But instead of like consuming all the new stuff, it's still new stuff to me. But I'm having a lot of fun with 80s and 90s film and TV shows, particularly movies. Like TV back then was shitty, but
Heat and Con Air, like classic 90s action
Die
movies.
Hard, Die Hard 2, which I've seen, but like they're good examples of that era.
They're so good because there's like just enough like cheese that it's kind of cringy sometimes, but it does it right.
Have
like
you seen
90s
Last Action Hero?
Movies are so good. What is it?
Last Action Hero?
What is it? Is that a 90s action movie?
Yeah, it's an action movie. It's so meta, and it's so cool that it was made when it was. But it's this kid who loves action movies, and he's going to the theater alone, and somehow he gets sucked into the movie, and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, really?
And I'm pretty sure he's playing himself as a movie. I don't remember, or if he's like a fictional star, but it's the kid's in the movie, and he knows all the lines, and he's like convincing this movie like meathead character, like who's a caricature, that he's like he knows that he's a movie star and he knows things are real, and then he comes to the real world and the villains come to the. It's bonkers.
That sounds
it's really
like so much fun.
It's really good,
especially it sounds like it was well done,
and it's super smart, and like the theming and stuff carries over really well today. In terms of like superhero movies, even I don't know. I only like when I discovered it was a thing. I was like, I'm watching it. I immediately watched it because it's such a fun. I recommend it.
Who plays the kid? Is it anybody?
Just like a regular kid. I don't know.
Just
a regular kid off the street.
I'm picturing Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
I mean, I'll look it up. Last Action Hero or Movie Hero.
That sounds like a really fun movie. But yeah, just like there is with every
from 1993.
Okay. Every generation
Austin
has
O'Brien. Oh. Tyrion or Tywin Lannister's in it.
Oh yeah, that guy was big in the 90s. I remember when I saw Game of Thrones, I knew Tywin Lannister's face. I was like, he's been in a lot of shit.
Yeah, so this is I'm only showing him, but that's the
action hero.
It's so good. Watch it.
Awesome. But yeah, anyways,
why did I bring
nostalgia. Movies. There's so many movies to consume is what.
There's like new stuff, but the new stuff I've been consuming is old stuff that is new to me, and that's a lot of fun.
Sometimes you got to go back in time.
I think there's just the tangibility of it. It's a time capsule as well to see kind of what life was like then. The cars, like anything on location. If you just look in the background, obviously there's extras, but it's just like that's the way the city looked. Those are the cars that were on the street. Like it's a time capsule. Even it's super artificial and manicured or whatever the right word is, controlled and whatever. It's still stuff from that time, and that's really cool. Because you could watch, say, Stranger Things, and you can kind of that's a time capsule, but that's just like everything is from the 80s in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But if you're in the 80s, you have stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s still hanging around. The same way today, you go in your parents' garage and you see stuff from the last 3 decades, or your parents' furniture spans different decades, stuff like that. So that's like why that stuff's cool, because it's more lived in.
Yeah.
Than a modern period
to
piece.
Taking a syringe full of 80s stuff and just injecting it
which has its place and is cool.
Of course. But there is, I know what you mean. That's a really cool way to look at it, that it's more lived in and you're actually seeing what it looked like at the time with the past couple decades kind of assimilated.
And I got to give Dan Bull credit for that perspective.
He
tweeted that one. I was like, yeah, you're right.
Shout out
that's
Dan
good.
Bull. Our father. Our clone father. What we are is just the split genetic code of Dan Bull put into 2 forms. We're actually under the umbrella of the Dan Bull mega corporation, which is slowly taking over the world.
Yep.
And just had to be transparent about that. So, anyways,
we had to be. That's legally obligated.
Speaking of Daniel Bull and us, what do? We do YouTube, and we're talking about nostalgia. And I saw another thing you wrote down to talk about, which I love, is our first memories of YouTube.
Yeah.
Kind of all over the place with this pod, but who frickin' cares? Because I know Jerry's probably listening right now. And Jerry, you're looking good right now. Your butt's looking really good.
Got that silver fox.
Oh, yeah. Super
hair.
hot. It is funny to think about if any of our family and friends probably still listening. Love you guys. But anyways, first memories of YouTube.
Yeah, so
staying on track.
I kind of wrote down the things I wanted to talk about. And then separately, I had a brain blast. I was like, I actually remember the first time I was on YouTube, the first video I saw, the feelings and thoughts I had. And I was like, I need to share that. Yeah.
Wait, your first video you posted, or the first video you saw?
The first video I ever saw. The first time I went on the page. So our buddy Raleigh, he played Xbox Live, and he had it before me, and I was always very jealous. But he sent me this link, and he said, I'm in this video. I was like, what? And it was a gameplay video it was a Battlefield gameplay video of someone killing him. And this guy made this video, and he was sharing it to everyone that was in the kill feed. Was like a pretty interesting way to kind of market yourself at that time. But we're talking like the infancy of YouTube. And I'm on it, and I'm like, wait, how did that happen? Is this like I thought it was like some kind of engine that pulls the footage so that you can see where you died and stuff. I was like, wait, how do you do that? I want to do that. I want to see my footage. And he's like, no, this is a video someone sent me that I'm in. And I was like, oh, YouTube. Okay, it's a video platform, but it was like one of many video platforms. By the way, at the time, it's just the one that stuck around, which is really cool. That like, I don't know. I probably interacted with a ton of video platforms, but I like YouTube. I remember that. I remember looking at it and not understanding what it was, thinking, how did my friend get his footage online through this guy? I thought it was some kind of automated service. I thought it was maybe a only video game thing for your kills or whatever. That was in my head. That's what YouTube was to me. Those are my first emotions. And like, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting to share.
That is so cool because you just drafted up my memory of what maybe wasn't my first YouTube video, but I had a very similar experience. And it's just so cool to relive this now that
it's also
on
like
this platform.
The ignorance of the internet. Like that conceptually a video platform wasn't palatable to me. I was like, what is this? Even though I'm looking at a video, I'm like, what is this platform?
Also, how is
Which is wild to me that exists.
My friend is on there.
My friend is in the computer?
Yeah, no, I remember we had this goofy kid named Grayson who was in my class in 8th grade. It was 2005. YouTube had just been created. And I obviously knew what the internet was, knew what finding videos on the internet, but like you said, there were so many different places to find videos, like
E-Bombs World,
Vinyl
Black
Sheep. So I remember, I knew what YouTube was. I knew it was one of these things, but I didn't know that anyone could just upload to it because I remember somebody in my class showed me this goofy video of our buddy Grayson doing something goofy and just thinking that is so cool. He's famous. I remember.
How's he on the TV?
He is on the internet, even though it probably
you put yourself on the tube. You put yourself on the TV.
Yourself that is YouTube, and it would be years later until only 2 years until I uploaded something to YouTube myself. Yeah, my first YouTube channel. Please try to find it. If it's gone, it's gone. But try to find it. It's gone. Scrubbed from the internet. It was called Brave Little Toasta. I know some dingus is going, oh, well, I'm going to find it. No, you won't. I promise you won't. If you do, I'll give you $1,000.
Are you on record? Because the internet's very capable.
If somebody can dig up Brave Little Toasta and the cringy shit I posted.
Well, didn't you make a new?
I'll give you $1,000. I mean it. I will give somebody $1,000 if they can somehow unarchive.
What kind of content is on it?
It was nothing super bad, but the first song I ever posted to YouTube, first video I ever posted, was a song of me on guitar. I had just learned how to play like 4 basic chords on my mom's old acoustic guitar, which I actually still have here at the office. And it was a song called Boobies in the Morning. Written by a 15-year-old or 16.
I'm going to search on YouTube, Boobies in the Morning, Brave Little Toasta. That's pretty specific.
That's why I'm offering $1,000. I will pay somebody $1,000 if they can somehow unencrypt the internet and extract my YouTube channel. But yeah, it was Brave Little Toasta, BraveLilToasta. Brave Little Toasta. And I made Boobies in the Morning. I made another song called Naked. As you can tell, I was
I just looked it up. There's just a bunch of boobs from TikTok videos put on
there's
here.
Nothing. And then I made a song with my girlfriend, which I'm sure was very cringy. Or it wasn't. We did a cover of a Jason Mraz song, which was super cute. And what else did I post on there?
I think you started posting what would be JT stuff or something, but then you made a Skull Cruncher account and you messaged me. And I was like, who are you? Are you a poser?
Oh, that's right, because you could DM people on YouTube. That's right. Did I do that? That's funny. Was I pretending to be a fake Skull Cruncher?
Then you're like, dude, it's a good thing you did that. You don't know.
Oh, my God. I
appreciated my apprehension on if you were a poser or not, which is so funny.
John knows how to handle himself on the internet ever since he was a wee lad. But yeah, Brave Little Toasta was first. Good times posting just like some stupid videos. But nothing, I don't think there was anything terrible on there. Just Boobies in the Morning was probably the most like edgy thing. It was a great jam, honestly. If there's one thing that I love, it's I love them in the morning. Yeah, it was kind of catchy. But anyways,
you could repurpose that. It's happened well.
I could repurpose it.
It worked out well once before.
Well, actually, I did already remake the beat like at least the vibe of it. I remade it as an instrumental years ago and haven't used it for anything. But yeah. Anyways, early YouTube days. Remember the layout, how blocky it was? I mean, everything.
The big
was
yellow buttons. Like YouTube channels were essentially very MySpace vibey.
Yes.
And like customized, like you customize the borders, the font, and the background colors, all these different things.
You could have. Oh yeah.
And this means nothing to anyone who wasn't on YouTube before or even knows what MySpace is. But it felt very MySpacey, and you could. It was an interesting day. Interesting time, rather. Day.
Yeah, the YouTube channels, which certainly, I mean, people kind of look at YouTube channels as television channels now, whereas back then, yeah, it felt more personalized. I know what you mean. Even though obviously there are tons of YouTube channels that are personalities and personalized, it feels more like this is a show, this is a segment I'm watching, as opposed to like visiting someone's page. I also just remembered one of the first profile pictures I made for JT Machinima was the two Halo helmets.
Yep, I still got that.
And yeah, the two Halo helmets that were modeled after the theatrical happy and sad mask, you know, that iconic kind of.
I pulled that file up.
It's so small,
It's tiny, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
it's not tiny because you made it to be an avatar size photo. It's just tiny because that was the resolution on whatever computer.
Yeah, because I remember the resolution was like for normal. I made it in Photoshop, but that was the last copy of it that we had was the one that was from YouTube. But anyways, just some early memories of like, I don't know, just early YouTube.
There was video responses. That was a good way. So you'd have the video. And then below you could have video responses, which essentially served as a featured video playlist for a specific video. So it'd be the video, and right below it would be 4 to 5 videos. So you could control what was there. You had to send the request or put a request in, and the other person would accept it.
Collab with people, like I'll re-you, dude. Didn't they say that? I'll re-you.
Yeah, because the idea was it was supposed to be kind of a collaborative, like discussional thing or
sub
response.
For sub.
Yeah, sub for sub. That was old.
I remember this weird rabbit hole I went down on YouTube. Like, I'm remembering weird rabbit holes I went down. There was this video. I'm sure somebody out of the, 100 people that listen to this, somebody's probably seen it. There was a video back in the day called Emo Scene Kids Suck. And I remember it was this edgy girl. I think she was Canadian. I don't remember how I came across this video, but it had so many responses of all these emo kids, and she was emo, which was hilarious. And she was a kid. I'm sure wherever she is, she looks back on this and is like, oh my God, I can't stand it. But I remember going down the rabbit hole, listening to all her arguments and listening to all the response videos. For some reason, even though I was never an emo scene kid, I remembered there were it was like emo scene kids suck. And it was this huge rabbit hole of these kids death threatening each other, threatening to kill each other because they didn't like the other style of music. And it was so funny because it was like emo versus scene kids, but they're the fucking same.
I found it.
It was amazing. That's not it.
But but
there are responses.
It's all the responses that exist.
I think, yeah, because years later, I would go back and try to find it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. And that's just such a funny, I remember just for some reason being invested in this debate. Those were the good old days.
Yeah. Oh, and the fact that you could cater your featured videos essentially, because that's probably how it was meant to be done. But it's so cool that people repurposed it and then YouTube took that power away. It's the same way as seeing your timeline in the order you want to see it. No, we'll monetize that, bitch. And we'll make an algorithm. Fuck you. Yeah. Took the power away from us. But it was cool to have it at a time. And that was a good way to kind of proactively kind of market ourselves. That's how with our Halo videos, we would try and find ways to get them on featureds. Mm-hmm. And I remember one guy told us, he said something rude.
Oh, the guy that we tried to do a video with?
No, we one of the Halo 3 raps. Remember the
Oh, the guy who just blew us off?
Yeah, he said something rude.
My video's better than yours or something?
Yeah. And I hung on to that. I was such a little petty ass bitch teenager. I would when our greatest ever passed him, I was like, yeah, you fucker. Ours is better. It got more views. I hung on to that for so long because I took that so personally. Dude, fuck you, dude.
I think I might have messaged him. Been like, we passed you, we're better than you. So cringy, but oh, dude, I remember getting into arguments in the comments section.
Yep.
Dude, I remember the funniest thing I ever said. I told the guy that I could bench press 165 pounds. Oh, no, this is the cringiest thing I've ever done. Save that. I remembered I did this a couple times, and I'm admitting this because this is the JT Music podcast where we get real and raw with you guys. I would try to rap battle people in the comments. I would respond and be like, yo, your name is Steve. You wouldn't believe. You're going to grieve when I leave you in shambles.
At least that's an element of creativity. That's fun.
And I would, it was, but it's just so funny to think back to how cringy those probably were. And I remember I got in this one super heated debate with this guy who claimed to be with the Department of Defense and like threatened me and like said he was going to come to my house, which I was very cavalier about. I was like, oh, fucking do it, man. Come get me. Like, holy shit.
It'd also be a gross misuse of assets if that guy was in a position of power. Like, obviously fake.
Yes, it would be tragic if a guy from the Department of the Defense came and murdered a 16-year-old that he got into an argument with on YouTube. That would be very tragic, but it would be fucking hilarious. If that's how I died, you please make fun of me at my funeral, or make fun of that guy, rather.
I think make fun of him more.
That would be so tragic and so funny. But Flame Wars on YouTube, dude. Getting in arguments in the comment section.
I think we touched on this, but like our videos when they go live on Machinima is essentially out to a neutral audience. And also this was so big at the time, and I'm glad this has aged out, is like Get a Life, or these guys have a lot of time, or they're virgins, they have like whatever, like all these different kind of classic kind of like nerd, egghead, jock, from a jock to a nerd egghead kind of comment bullshit.
Which is funny because the kids leaving those comments were also
probably
definitely nerds.
Dude.
Like, there's no way the jocks
but
were
we felt like we had to defend ourselves, and we used to be like, no, I have a girlfriend, and I'm captain of the swim team, and my friend John is varsity lacrosse captain. Like, we have lives. Like, all the
dude,
I
straight up said shit like that all the time.
Me too,
it was
from my
so
side.
Embarrassing, but hey, I was.
I think it's hilarious.
Oh, it is hilarious. It is hilarious. I think it was also a different era of the internet. Like, you wouldn't catch. I'm sure that teenagers now do just as cringy stuff, just in different outlets.
Well, they're also way more literate too on
exactly.
Like this, it was almost like it just happened. You know?
Like 17-year-olds now are way more self-aware on the internet than we ever were.
Yeah.
That is not up for debate. That is certainly true. But again, when you're a teenager, when you're young, you do things that are regrettable and maybe kind of cringy, but that's okay. That's what we do. We do that. And
I'm glad we could grow into it. We had our cringy time, but we grew into it as it existed too, which is really neat. I think. Well, it's probably all 30-year-olds, all millennials, but like particularly within our window of 3 to 4 years, have this conversation. Like, I'm so glad when I grew up because I got to kind of experience the analog age, and then I got to transition into the digital age. Mm-hmm. And everyone probably thinks they grew up and exist in the perfect time for them. Like, that's just the way home is home. It's the same idea, but I think almost. I feel really lucky that I got to experience both sides, because we got to experience the very end of the old world and grow into the new world, and that's really cool.
I think, I agree.
Or the new age, old age, whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. In that, when we were teenagers, the internet was just kind of a burgeoning thing. So, like I just mentioned, Brave Little Toaster, you will not find it anywhere. I'm keeping my $1,000 because nobody's gonna find it. Whereas now, TikTok, everything, it's there forever. So when you post something, you're 14 years old, you're going to post something fun for your friends, you look back in 5 years and you try to delete it, you try to scrub it, but it's on a cringe compilation. It's somewhere out there. It's so much harder. Like, now, what's the saying? You can't, once it's out on the internet, it's there forever.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case when we were kids. There's shit that's gone forever. I'm a firm believer in that. I think Brave Little Toaster is one of those things.
Lost media.
I think we have passed that. I think now in the internet age, it's really freaking hard if you want something to not be there forever. And I'm very happy I am a cringy 32-year-old with a little bit more self-awareness than when I was a cringy 17-year-old with very little self-awareness. So I'm thankful for that. But like you were saying, it's kind of a generational thing. Every generation thinks it's got the best hand dealt. Like, now Zoomers are going to be there for the renewable energy, and we'll only get the tail end of it. Well, they're going to be shooting off into space, and
AI
and becoming laser.
Or not AI, like crazy VR, like
Yeah.
being in there. But that's the cool thing. We'll be old people so that we can escape our decaying bodies to then become young people again at the right time.
Yes.
That's my hope. I hope that can happen.
That would be cool to just transfer.
That's our generation is so perfect. As we get to experience the old, the new, grow up with it, and then the new becomes good enough to then make us
permanent.
New again, or permanent, yeah, or at least a perceptive, like, oh yes, I can go run around and do fun things, even though I'm in a bed right now sleeping. But I'm in my brain, perception, video game, VR world. I don't know,
dude.
That'd be pretty cool if
this is
if
what's
that's
happening.
how we could. I don't know. I'm obviously gonna try and stay in shape and keep my body taken care of as long as I could. But that's a good plan B if we have that technology.
Dude, millennials they figure out how to transfer consciousness, and we're slowly, as we start aging out, putting our consciousness into the young generation, like some possession type shit.
It's like a generational Get Out.
That's so yeah, no, it is. That's what I just pictured. I just pictured like generational Get Out. Yeah.
Ugh.
That's scary. That's super scary and very fucked up and dark. There's something so weird about stuff like that, like Abomination. Like, I think it's Uncanny Valley stuff, which is a whole different conversation. An abomination, like something that, like, to me, I don't know what the official term of an abomination, but like taking, like, Frankenstein is a perfect example of an abomination. It's made from pieces of real organic material, but it's come together and kind of thrown together in this way that is just goes against nature. That's what an abomination is to me. Something that just goes so against the course of nature that who knows, some abominations might actually be good for humans, but like it is just haunting to think of abominable acts like that, like transferring your consciousness and taking over some young person's body. And
I think the thing that's weird and I think is possible is transferring your conscious, but it's be the same with time travel or like theoretical time travel or teleportation, is that this version of me is gone and it's just a copy of me, a copy of my conscience, a copy of my existence.
Yeah.
Like that is so sad.
Yeah, like it's like
I would never teleport. I just no.
Oh, if you teleport, it's a whole philosophical debate that like if you teleport and this form gets ripped apart and rebuilt exactly the same somewhere else, that version of you, it won't be this version. This version of you will just cease to exist, which is haunting to think because you are in your own brain right now.
Because and this me is cease to exist.
Will cease to exist. So your particles will get ripped apart in hopefully a completely painless way, but it probably won't be. Let's be realistic. You'll be there. You'll be like, okay, I'm going to teleport. Fuck! And then you're gone. And you scream fuck. And that's the last thing you ever say. But the particles that got taken apart get reconfigured in the exact same particles, everything, exact same electrical signals and impulses going through your head, neural stuff, gets put back together, and you go, you finish saying fuck, fuck, oh, okay, I'm here. And that version of you will, for all intents and purposes, still be you, and think it's the original version, and you'll think, I survived the process, but it won't be. And that is hard to fathom, is that...
And a lot of sci-fi use that concept.
It's going to be a copy of you. So I think it's the same way with consciousness transference. It would be a copy of you that thinks it's still you, but it's not. So are you willing to sacrifice this version of yourself to create another better version? I'm not. Yeah. I like being in this, but I want to stay here.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that.
It's wild. There's a lot of fun sci-fi out there that kind of jumps into that. But on that note, we're done.
Yes. Now we must go find...
Shut down. I got to recharge the batteries.
We must find younger human bodies to insert our AI into. This form is getting boring. It is also too short. It is 5'7". I would like to be in a 6'5" body. Let's go find one. Oh, wait, I found one.